Welcome to Politically Unstable with Charles Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor. I'm your host, Andy Parks, and I'd like to remind you that you qualify for a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times. Simply go to washingtontimes.com/Andy. That's washingtontimes.com/ANDY. All right, let's bring them on, ladies and gentlemen. Washington Times opinion editor Charles Hurt. Hello, Charlie.
Dr. Parks, how are you, sir?
Doing just fine. Jen Psaki called and said that she's having a tough time keeping up with Joe Biden because he's so fit. When asked, she said that was not the case with you. She could run circles around you.
Well, you know, I'm a dad bod model. I can model all of your dad bod sportswear, and no, it really is amazing. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the stupidity of these nuzzling questions that these people ask this administration are just astounding to me. I covered the White House for 10 plus years. I would be so embarrassed to ask some of these questions. If you're covering the White House, a lot of times, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, you've fielded like 6 different phone calls from the newsroom of people who cover other things who have urgent questions for you that they really want asked at the briefing. And so when you go into these briefings, a reasonable reporter has like 15 questions that they're like, okay, the gas pipeline in Europe that he just green-lighted, the gas pipeline that Joe Biden killed in the middle of America, the gas pipeline that got knocked off by extortionists. You've got all these things. You've got rioting in the streets. You've got an invasion at the border. You've got inflation going through the roof right now. You've got all of these questions. I wouldn't know which one to ask, but we're going to ask about his fitness. What does she call it? Regime.
Yeah.
Her fitness. His fitness regime, whatever that is. I mean, seriously, what is that?
I don't know.
Is that right next to like a communist regime?
Yeah.
Or an authoritarian regime?
I guess.
Is that I don't know what that is.
Let's see. A partisan armed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, but not what you think, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is extraordinary, and it's amazing how little press coverage this thing got. Supposedly, a group of Capitol Hill police officers wrote a letter demanding that Republicans fall in line in favor of a partisan investigation into the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Think about that for a minute. Mm-hmm. Here it is, a political question. You have an armed entity that has decided to take a political position on a political question, and they write a letter pressuring Republicans to fall into line on their political opinion. This is shocking. This should shock everyone. It is amazing. And not only that, the letter that they wrote, it was filled with these veiled threats about how, we saved your lives on January 6th. You would have died if it hadn't been for us standing in the breach. The veiled threat, you wait till next time, see what happens. You may not like Congress. I don't like Congress. I don't like most of the politicians up there. But this is the deal in this country. They got elected. And because they got elected, they carry a tremendous amount of power in terms of determining what happens in Congress. But inside the halls of Congress, they have all the power. How much power does an armed police officer inside the Capitol have? 0. He can go home. He can go write his congressman. He can petition his congressman from home after he takes off his badge, takes off his weapon, and leaves the Capitol. That's what he can do. When he gets to the Capitol, you put all that stuff down. But the idea, and of course the letter was written on U.S. Capitol Police letterhead, which adds a whole nother sort of level of threat to the whole thing that is just amazing. And then you have somebody like a Congressman, Jamie Raskin. I actually had a debate about this with some yesterday. Is he the greasiest congressman in all of Congress, or just one of the greasiest? I think he's one of the greasiest.
Yeah, he's up at the top, that's for sure. He's from my home state of Maryland, so yeah.
So I mean, look. look, I'm willing to debate the point whether he's the greasiest or one of the greasiest. But like you say, either way, he's right up there at the top. He takes this letter, apparently having no concept, having never, and he's also a Harvard-trained lawyer, which it thrills me to no end. Tells you all you need to know about Harvard and their love of greasy lawyers. He takes the letter and sends it around to fellow members of Congress, Republicans, saying, hey, listen, this is, look at this. This is, you need to get on our bill for a partisan investigation into the January 6th riot. And it just reveals his utter stupidity. Of course, thankfully, though, the U.S. Capitol Police denounced the letter, and they said this had nothing, and they quickly denied that it was even written by a member of their police force. Kudos to them. It reveals that, the decency and constitutional respect that the vast majority of the Capitol Police have. But they couldn't distance themselves quick enough. CNN, the dopey outfit that it is, also, right there with Jamie Raskin, greasy Jamie Raskin, having no concept whatsoever about how the Constitution works, they claim to have confirmed that it was, in fact, a Capitol policeman and that the police officer was representing 40 to 50 other police officers, not directly, take a hand in stealing Capitol Police stationery. But whatever the case, it's a really shocking situation, and it goes to the heart of who's in charge up there and the respect for the way the whole Constitution works,
Yeah. What surprises me, well, it really doesn't surprise me, is the Democrats have yet to condemn the violence that took place as recently as last night in Portland. And yet they're worried about this insurrection that was created by the Republican Trump voters. And it's just amazing to me that they have blinders on when it comes to all of this other nonsense going on in our country.
Because they literally do not care about the safety of regular law-abiding Americans. And that's the shocking thing here. They don't give a damn about it. All they care about is they do care a lot about their own safety, and they'll go to extraordinary measures to ensure their own safety, including building a wall around the Capitol after 10 years of telling us that walls don't work and that walls are racist, and refusing to fund President Trump's wall at the border. Of course, the media plays right into it because at every turn, every story you ever read about the January 6th riot, people call it an armed insurrection. They were armed because they had flagpoles in their hands.
Yeah.
Or the other thing they called it a deadly insurrection. Okay, it was deadly. It was deadly because 4 rioters who were Trump supporters died. 3 of them died of natural causes. One of them was shot in the face by presumably a Capitol Police officer who has never, to this day, been identified, and there's been no transparency whatsoever about what happened there. And then, of course, the 5th death was the Capitol Police officer who we were lied to for weeks and months and told that he was killed by rioters, bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher. It turns out all of that is a fantastical lie, completely made up by the New York Times and parroted by everybody else. Turns out he died of natural causes. Oh, and one of the things, his family says he was a supporter of President Trump. So this idea that it was a deadly insurrection, nobody cares in the media. They don't care. They just want to make this sound as bad as possible. And then they turn right around and they want to talk about the mostly peaceful protests that are resulting in their entire livelihoods being burned to the ground, people being killed in the street, federal buildings being firebombed, police officers being shot and killed. They want to play all that stuff down. But then you have a thing like this where, I think it also has to do with there's so many reporters that work in the Capitol. And so suddenly, if it's their place of work, it's a deadly insurrection.
Yeah.
But if it's some other loser's business that they've spent their entire life sacrificing to build, it's a mostly peaceful demonstration.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught the video of the Fox reporter in Minneapolis at George Floyd Square yesterday. He's doing the live shot, and all of a sudden, gunshots ring out. 33 gunshots, and yet ABC News last night never even mentioned that. CBS and NBC afforded 33 seconds combined to that story. That was it. That was a non-story.
Andy, you're just being racist. They care about black lives, and nothing is more important to black lives than 33 gunshots going off in a neighborhood that is being celebrated by Black Lives and Black Lives Matter. So you just need to check your white privilege and put your racist anti-BLM claptrap in a box somewhere. This is just.
It's crazy.
It's unbelievable. These people are so sick. And then the other thing was poor Jen Psaki. She's such a sweet person, but she's just so over her head. She was talking about how it's not a violent, it's not a rioting problem. It's a gun problem.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's a gun problem, really? Because most Americans are thinking this is a gun solution. Have you tried to buy a gun lately? Have you tried to buy ammunition lately? You can't find it anywhere. Everybody is buying up every gun, every sprig of ammo they can find. And you got Jen Psaki sitting up there going, "Oh, it's a gun problem."
Yeah.
Okay, it's a gun solution for most people.
Yeah, it's always with liberal Democrats. It's always the gun's fault, unless you're a cop and you shoot a black guy. Then it's the cop's fault.
Unless it's a cop that is in the Capitol shooting a Trump supporter, an unarmed Trump supporter who is that. In which case, then we don't. It is so not the cop's fault. We don't even need to get to the bottom of who it was or identify the person. Suddenly, all the wagons circle around that guy because that's their cop. That's the cop who's protecting them.
Yep.
Oh, these people are so sick.
Oh,
you're going to ruin my whole day.
Yeah.
Thinking about this stuff.
I know.
I'm mad now.
All right. One more thing before I let you run. You had another column, Logic, No Obstacle for Nancy Pelosi and Her Lawless Party. Very good piece of work of yours. She is about as dishonest as they come, isn't she?
She really is. And, I'm always reminded of, I remember back, I was talking to a Republican in leadership back when in Tom DeLay's office. So that dates it to, 15 years ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Nancy Pelosi was as big a horse's ass back then as she is now. And I remember just sitting there, and Tom DeLay is one of the smartest people to ever pass through leadership of Congress. Really a very, very, just a sort of a brilliant mind for how to identify the fights to have and then to carry out those fights. But it kind of tells you a lot about Republicans. And I remember sitting there saying to him, like, how is it that Nancy Pelosi is still serving as, I think she was minority leader at the time or something like that. How is it possible? She's so dumb. And the stuff she says is so stupid. And the guy looked at me and he goes, "Are you kidding me? She's our insurance policy. She is the one who ensures that we never, ever lose our majority." And I thought at the time, oh, okay, that's good. And then cue the epic ability for Republicans to screw up everything that they touch.
Yeah.
For the next 15 years, Democrats romp the table, and she becomes Speaker of the House not once, but twice. She becomes the first woman Speaker of the House, and then the first woman to lose the Speaker of the House, and then the first woman to have lost the speakership of the House and then gained it back.
Yeah.
How dumb are Republicans? And you want to know how come Donald Trump got elected, beat the living tar out of Republicans, and then got elected? It's because Republicans are that stupid. And everything they're doing right now, everybody is doing right now. If you'd asked me 4 months ago, will Donald Trump be president after 2024? I would have said he's sacrificed so much for this country. Who would want to go back to the and the vitriol and the toxic, the nastiness? And he's got this great life, this wonderful life. Who would want to go back to this stuff? Well, I'll tell you what. You look at the invasion on the border. You look at this inflation that is being caused by Joe Biden relentlessly printing money and giving and paying people not to work. And you look at this business with the rioting in the streets, and you look at this business of gas prices going up because Joe Biden is killing pipelines in this country and opening them in Europe. You look at that stuff, and suddenly my view is very different. I'm starting to think that Donald Trump really might look at this and say, "Are you kidding me? This will be a walk. This will be easy."
Yeah, no
the
kidding.
entire country. The only people who will despise me are Jamie Raskin and the media. And who cares what they think?
Yeah.
I'll go from being a 50-50 president to being an 80% president because everyone will agree with me on all these things, and this will be very easy. My view, I got to tell you, Andy, I didn't think it was possible, but over the past 4 months, my view on what he does in 3.5 years is dramatically different today. I can see him running now, and I can see him mopping the floor with these people because they are so stupid and they so hate America, and that every decision they make is aimed at hurting America. You're paying people not to work. Nobody's talking about inflation. Inflation is going to be the biggest issue of the next 2 elections.
Mm-hmm. Folks, you can read all of Charlie's columns at WashingtonTimes.com. Out of time for today. We'll do it again next week. Thanks, Charlie.
Always great talking to you, buddy.
Thanks for listening to Politically Unstable with Charlie Hurt. As I said, you can read all of Charlie's columns at WashingtonTimes.com. And while you're there, check out our fantastic selection of podcasts. I'm Andy Parks. Have a great day.